Hi, I'm Jeff Eager with Oregon Roundup Foundation, coming to you today to talk a little bit about a piece that I wrote and that was published by the Wall Street Journal today about one of our favorite topics, which is, of course, the $4.3 billion transportation tax hike that Tina Kotek and Democrats in the legislature passed narrowly last year and is now headed to referendum after some 250,000 Oregonians signed a referendum petition because the tax is so darn unpopular. Really happy that Wall Street Journal thought that this was a story that deserves some national attention. I sometimes joke that we've been covering Medicaid fraud and transportation taxes, not exclusively, but that's kind of been our go-to for the last few months. And we do that because those are two really important things for, I believe, the future of Oregon. They're important policy issues in their immediate application, but they go to some of the underlying problems and what is driving Oregon into the ground. So a little bit about that Wall Street Journal piece. I wrote it like a month ago, and then it went through the approval process of Wall Street Journal and also the editing process there, which is fairly substantial. But what I wrote about was, unsurprisingly, the fact that I think that this is this whole referendum, the blowback on the tax hike, and now Democrats' attempt to distance themselves from the political repercussions of their deeply unpopular tax hike it has the potential to really be a problem for them and to be a problem for the progressive coalition that's ruled Oregon, depending on your definition of progressivism, for at least the last 5 to 10 years, and arguably before that as well. And one of the outgrowths of that progressive coalition is just they need to hike taxes. That's a fundamental need for that coalition, because hiking taxes allows them to hire more people and or to pay more state workers more money. And some of that money ends up in the coffers of those public employee unions, including especially SEIU, which in turn flips those around to campaign donations and other less trackable political support for the Democrats who keep making bad decisions, and we're living with the results of those decisions here in Oregon. One of the worst business competitiveness states, high unemployment, layoffs in line with what occurred during the Great Recession, bottom of the barrel school performance, name down the list. We're last or nearly last in the country in so many measures, and the fuel that the progressive coalition that created that environment needs to keep going is more money. And that's why Tina Kotek and SEIU put so much effort into getting this tax increase over the finish line last year, in spite of the public pressure against it, in spite of the fact that it was apparent that the public did not want this thing. They had to push it through because they need more money. If they aren't growing the pie, then there's not enough money to pay off the people. And I'm not saying anyone's doing anything illegally. It's legalized corruption is what we're dealing with here in Oregon, and they need to pump more money into the system. And if they don't, then the people that they rely on to make this thing go are going to get unhappy. And you can't have unhappy members of your coalition, or the coalition's going to fall apart. So that's what I wrote about the Wall Street Journal. I'm going to go ahead and attach a link below. The link, I don't understand how Wall Street Journal's paid versus non-paid link thing works. Some people were able to get to it without despite a paywall. Other people couldn't. I'm a subscriber because this is what I do, or part of what I do. And so it wasn't an issue for me, but I'll include a link. I'll also include a screenshot from the digital print version that has the piece in it. I'm going to stay on this tax thing. Obviously, the Democrats in the legislature have a bill right now that I have not yet read that would rejigger the election date from November of next year to May of next year, obviously in an attempt to avoid appearing on the same general election ballot as their stinker of a tax hike. That is, again, another, blatantly self-interested procedural move that's blown up in their face in the past as they've been kind of pushing this thing through the process. Most famously, Tina Kotek's, stalling on signing her signature bill to try to deprive, the referendum petitioners of the ability to get enough signatures. That backfired big time. I think there's a chance this backfires big time. I haven't read the bill, but what I understand it says, and I'll probably end up writing about this in more detail, it obviously would change the date of the referendum election from November to May, which would possibly disenfranchise, over 1 million Oregonians, just because the turnout in a general election is so much higher than in a May election. It's another reason why they might want to hold it in May versus November. And it would change some of the deadlines that the Secretary of State has, that Oregon law has, about how and when you can get a measure like this on a ballot, because they don't have enough time to operate under normal procedure to get it on the ballot. So they're going to have to change the rules that allow, in order to try to get this thing on the May ballot. Now, they may succeed, they may not. The success of these kinds of procedural moves depend on people not knowing that they're happening, right? And that's the environment that progressives have operated in this state for a very long time, because they can kind of do what they want because no one's reporting on what they're doing and why. Or if they are reporting on it, they're reporting on it from kind of a, yeah, but we understand why you would do this standpoint. There's no we understand why you would do this standpoint here. They're doing it for craven political reasons. They're going to have to get a majority vote in both houses of the legislature to get this latest procedural maneuver passed. I believe that Oregonians need to know about it. Maybe they can get it passed, but they need to know what's happening. Oregonians, that is. The other thing that's kind of struck me about this legislative session that's underway is, Democrats have not grown timid about seeking tax hikes. They're looking at decoupling, in certain regards, the Oregon tax code from the federal tax code to remove some small business tax breaks that are newly in the federal tax code. Try to raise more revenue for the state of Oregon. And no matter what you think about, Republicans, congressional Republicans and Donald Trump's big, beautiful bill, what the Democrats in Oregon are attempting to do is to raise taxes on Oregonians again, and specifically to raise taxes on Oregonians that are operating small businesses and are trying to, buy equipment and get deductions for buying that equipment. If there's one thing, and I think even Tina Kotek would agree with this, Oregon needs is it needs more jobs and needs more good jobs. This is the kind of thing that goes directly to the non-competitiveness of Oregon's economy, and it just feeds the problem. But the fact that Democrats are going after yet more tax increases, in spite of the blowback they've gotten on the transportation tax, is telling, and it's something that, again, needs to be a priority for those people that are interested in Oregon becoming a more livable place, a place where people can do business and have jobs and afford to live. It's front and center. This tax issue has to be addressed. If the tax issue can be addressed, if the spigot of money into Salem can be restricted, or at least not allowed to continue to grow, that will put increased pressure on the progressive coalition that's driving this place into the ground on the basis of a failed ideology that has failed every single place it's ever been tried, and they're just can't do anything else. The current crop of people that are running the Democratic Party and in turn running Oregon need more money, and that's why it's important that we bring this to the fore and continue to cover Democrats' attempts to increase taxes on Oregonians who are sick of paying some of the highest taxes in the country. And that's why we're going to keep covering that here. Thanks for watching or listening, and more soon.